All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Peter. I'm the vicar here. If we've not met or you're joining online, really glad to have you this morning. And this morning we're continuing on with just lectionary readings, right? So these are the set readings, on the 3-year running pattern that the Church of England has. And it's good to do lectionary because then you don't just pick and choose the stuff you like, and avoid the stuff that's awkward or uncomfortable or whatever else. So we're doing a little bit of a series here through the lectionary. And this morning's lectionary reading from the Gospel of John it's one of my favorite ones. I really do. Well, do I mean that? Should you have I think it's quite an interesting passage. That's what I really mean. And I think it's one that gives us the opportunity to discuss a number of different topics and a number of different sort of ideas and kind of dive into a couple different questions that frequently come up. So I'm just going to read the passage, and then we're going to discuss it, and we'll go on. So, that's Luke. I was like, that is not what I thought it was. I was like, I've totally prepared the wrong thing. Okay, no. John chapter 9. I was looking at Luke chapter 9. I was like, oh, goodness. All right, here we go. So Jesus is going along with his disciples, all right? They're walking around. Chapter 9, verse 1 of the Gospel of John. As he went along, he saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Neither this man nor his parents sinned, said Jesus, but this happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him. As long as it is day, we must do the works of him who sent me. Night is coming when no one can work. While I am in the world, I am the light of the world. After saying this, he spit on the ground, made some mud with the saliva, and put it on the man's eyes. Go, he told him, wash in the pool of Siloam. This word means sent. So the man went and washed, and he came home seeing. His neighbors and those who had formerly seen him begging asked, isn't this the same man who used to sit and beg? Some claimed that he was. Others said, no, he only looks like him. But he himself insisted, I am the man. How then were your eyes opened? He asked. He replied, the man they called Jesus made some mud and put it on my eyes. He told me to go to Siloam and wash, so I went and washed, and then I could see. Where is this man? They asked him. I don't know, he said. All right, we're going to stop there. Now, the first thing I like to do in any of these things is identify kind of what was John's purpose in recording this story. Right? There's loads of things that Jesus said and that Jesus did that aren't recorded in any of the 4 Gospels. And we know this because I think it's John, or maybe it's Mark. John, yeah, who I think says, if everything Jesus said and did was recorded, there wouldn't be enough books in the world. Bit of a hyperbole, But actually, at the same time, if your whole life was actually chronicled by the minute, that'd be a lot of data. It probably takes some supercomputer that's got a lot of storage on it, some big freighter out in the middle of the ocean. Think about that for just a moment. Over here. We despise the notion that there's a God in the universe who knows everything we've done. And yet we're really quite happy for Google to. Right? How bizarre is that? Wouldn't you rather, all of the secrets of your life, and just think for a moment of all the secrets of your life that are on your history and on your device. Who do you trust the secrets of your life to? Big tech or the God who loves you? Anyway, going back to John, and why he included this passage. Now, one of the things that we remember the history of Israel from the Old Testament, God creates, and then there's the flood, and then he makes a promise to Abraham, and then goes to his son Jacob, which goes to his 12 sons, who become the 12 tribes of Israel, because Jacob wrestled with the angel of the Lord and had his name changed to Israel. Right? And through them, all nations would be blessed. And then the Israelites were enslaved in Egypt. God delivers them up out of slavery, brings them to Mount Sinai, and says, I will be your God, you will be my people. Here's a law. If you do it, it will go well for you. Yay, if you don't do it, it will go bad for you. Foreign armies will conquer you, kick you out of the land. But in faithfulness to my promises to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel, I will bring you back, and I will make a new covenant with you. I will exchange your heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. I will remove your unclean spirit and put my spirit in you, and I will restore you. That's kind of the overarching narrative, right, of the Old Testament. And during this time, when the nation of Israel is living in the land, and they've got a kingdom, it's divided in the northern kingdom of Israel and the southern kingdom of Judah, they were being fairly naughty. All right? And a prophet called Isaiah has a vision of God in his glory, and Isaiah sees him. He says, "Woe is me, for I'm a man of unclean lips," which is like ancient Hebrew slang for "I am unclean. And I live among a people of unclean lips." Again, sort of ancient Hebrew slang for being unclean. "And my eyes have seen the Lord." And God purifies him and says, "Who will go first? Whom shall we send?" Isaiah says, "Here am I, send me." And God says, "Go tell these people, be ever seeing but never perceiving, ever hearing but never understanding. Darken their hearts and their minds until villages lay in ruin." You're like, that sounds rough, but that's just the natural consequence of what was always said. Just like a parent says, "Listen, if you don't clean your room, you're not going out this weekend." Kid doesn't clean the room, guess what? You're not going out this weekend. You had total control over the situation. These are the choices you made. This is the consequence. Just like that. And then at the end of the book of Isaiah, God gives this restoring promise, right? And the restoring promise is that he would open their blind eyes and let the deaf hear and proclaim freedom to the captive. And so there's this whole sort of restoration. So when Israel came back from exile from the Babylonians and the Persians, they were waiting for this time of new covenant. They were waiting for this time where their heart of stone would be replaced with a heart of flesh, where their unclean spirit would be removed, and God would put his spirit in them. Where the time of blindness and deafness would be terminated, and they would be illumined and enlightened to God, his word, and his will, and empowered by his spirit to then go and do it. And so Jesus' healing of this blind man, and other blind people and deaf people and lame people and giving life to dead people, those aren't just, hey, Jesus can do cool stuff and he can do cool stuff for you too. I mean, that's true, but the point of them being included is to say Jesus is the one through whom the restoration that the people of Israel are anticipating, through whom that will be experienced. And so this is a physical demonstration of a spiritual possibility through Christ that Jesus is executing here. Does that make sense? That's why this story is in the Gospel of John, full stop. All right? Now, that being said, that's not the only reason that this story is in the Gospel of John. Right? There are more reasons in it, and I want to delve into some of those actually this morning. The first bit, I want to deal with this reasonable question for the disciples. They're walking along, they see a dude born blind. Okay, so this is a genetic fault, if you will. They say, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? And this is both an understandable, but it's like that kind of a question that arrives when one has a partial understanding that results in a misunderstanding. Do you see what I mean? Do you know when you kind of only understand something slightly? And so, because you understand it slightly, you're almost worse off than if you're entirely ignorant because you think you know something, but you don't. Yeah? Those of you who are educators in the room, you guys know what that's like? You guys know what that's about? And often you have to go through that period of misunderstanding to get to understanding. Right? You got to persevere, you got to push through that. So now Jesus' time, because the spiritual, because the spiritual and the material world are not disconnected, but are interwoven, intertwined, are one and the same, or maybe perhaps you could say two sides of the same coin, but even then I don't like, because that makes one like kind of, it's more enmeshed in like a tapestry than just two sides of the same coin. Where there is spiritual trauma, where there's spiritual breakage, where there's spiritual dysfunction, where there's spiritual uncleanness, that results in a physical something not being quite right as well. Right? So on the one hand, they've got the right question. At their time, they would have gone sort of directly, oh my gosh, this baby's born blind. Who screwed up? Did the parents screw up, or did the baby screw up? But that's kind of problematic, because how does a baby screw up? Right? So they've got kind of the right question in that they understand that there's something, when something is not quite right physically, then there's probably this reality that something might not be quite right spiritually. So they've got kind of that sort of right, but kind of not right at the same time. Sort of not right at the same time. Because sometimes stuff just happens. I've got psoriasis. Is that because I did something wrong in life? Is that a penalty for my sin? Or is that my parents' fault? Because I got my genes from them. And psoriasis is genetic. What was their sin? Well, it's genetic, so it went to their parents. Well, what's the parents' sin? And their parents, and their parents, and their parents, and their parents. See, here's to get through the misunderstanding to the understanding. The Christian worldview, or the Christian understanding of the way things are, is that this creation is beautiful. As Allison was saying, I am fearfully and wonderfully made, as are you, knit together in our mother's womb. And in that beauty is also brokenness. My skin doesn't work right. Right? Don't tell me it's beautiful. It's not. Last week, someone looked at my face and said, Peter, what's wrong with your face? It's like, there's a lot of things wrong with my face. I'm not sure which thing you might be talking about, Could be my windsock of a nose. But, because my psoriasis is flaring up. I don't like it. I don't want it. Don't tell me that's just a part of the beautiful creation in the world. No, my skin is broken, literally. Does that mean I'm discardable or disposable or not worth keeping around? I sure hope not. Does it mean, anyway, you get the point. And same with each and every one of you. We're all beautiful, broken people. And some of that which is broken in our lives is a result of our own decisions. Choices we've made. Things we've believed. Actions we've done. Events we've participated in. And there are sometimes natural consequences to that. Other times it has nothing to do with we were just born this way. We're just born this way. And some of us might grieve that because how we were born may have a greater or lesser degree of effect on the way you experience life, positively or negatively. Your life might be more challenging than some other people's just because of the way you were born. Who sinned? Is that your parents' fault? Your grandparents' fault? Your great-grandparents? Great? Well, scriptural Christianity would say all of the above. All of the above. Sin is in the world. Sin is just the kind of Christian theological word that means no one's perfect. And sadly, that's been used over centuries and millennia to manipulate, coerce, and control populations. And so we go, ah! It's actually, you've heard me say this 1,000 times, it's the least controversial Christian doctrine. No one's perfect. Somehow or another, most frequently objected to. And there's this principle we read about back in the Ten Commandments, actually. Back in Exodus. The second commandment is not to make for yourself any image or form of anything in heaven above or on the earth beneath or the waters beneath the earth. Don't bow down and worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sins of the parents to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. Now, we're going to get back to that in just a moment, but this principle is that sin and its consequence trickles out. It flows down. My sin will never affect only me. That's just the nature of the way things are. In the same way that if I pour out toxins into my garden, it will destroy my neighbors. I can't be like, that's not fair. That's just the way it is. It doesn't matter if I think it's fair or not. That's just a description of the way things are. And so, each and every one of us, because we go back the third and fourth generation, whatever, it eventually trickles all the way back to our first parents. However it is, we understand them. And the fact is, no one's perfect. And there are ways in which we were born that need amending. They need healing. Being born this way isn't an excuse. And if being born that way is why you are the way you are, and you cannot help it, well then, good golly, we've only got a couple of options to do with you. Haven't we? You can't control yourself. And if you can't control yourself, and your behavior, being blind isn't really a thing like that. I'm talking about your behavior is a liability to society. What are we meant to do? Fundamental question. Can people change even when they're born that way? Fundamental and critical question. If people cannot change even when they're born that way, well, what do we do if and when the way you were born isn't psoriasis or blindness, but it's abusive? Just let them go around abusing people? Verbally, physically, emotionally, psychologically, and otherwise, because they can't help it. That's just how their brain works. That's just how their genes are. That cannot be. So the next bit about this story is really important. This dude was born blind, and Jesus heals him. Being born a certain way is not the last and final word on anything. There's so much more hope in life than the fatalism of my genetics or yours. And so Jesus, we're going to talk about this with like the details of it, but Jesus spits in the dirt and makes mud. Come on, Jesus. Like, why you got to be weird? Imagine you're blind and you're like, can't really see what's happening, but you know, if you're blind, the word is you hear a lot better if you're blind. And What's going on here? Hold still. This will be fine. What? What are you putting on my? What are you putting on? What are you putting on my eyes? Jesus makes mud out of the dirt. I don't know why. I really wish I had like some really deep theological, like, well, in the Jewish tradition in the first century, like I sometimes have that in my back pocket, Don't have that one this time. I really don't know. The only stab I have at it is that Jesus rarely performs the same miracle the same way twice. And he doesn't perform the same miracle the same way twice, I think is a way of saying it's not a formula. You can't just figure out the formula and then repeat it properly enough. I think it goes back to last week. Moses, strike the rock. No, now this time Moses, speak to the rock. Because God isn't our magic little genie. If we rub the lamp just right and then Leviosa, say it just right, then we get the result that we're looking for. I think that's part of it. Jesus does what he wishes to do on his terms because he's an independent individual who is God, and he's able to make that choice for himself and won't be cajoled, coerced, or manipulated by us or by a mechanism. I think that's part of it, at least. I think another part of it, well, we'll get to another part of it. Anyway, so Jesus makes mud out of his spit and dirt, rubs it on the dude's eyes, and then says, go and wash. And he goes and he washes and he's healed. Now, again, Christians aren't silly. Well, some Christians are silly. But generally speaking, we don't believe in miracles because we're silly, superstitious people who don't know how to think critically about things. We're people who think critically about things. We've heard eyewitness testimony. We've seen the reliability of its record. And we've gone, this is unusual. I shall pay attention to it. And so this guy was healed. And he's able to see. Those of us who are sitting back, and you're sitting back and going, actually, there are things that are just true about me. Maybe I was born this way. Maybe I sinned, or maybe someone sinned against me, or maybe it's just because sin is in the world. I don't know what it is, but I've got this thing going on in my life, and I'm desirous of God's activity. I'm desirous of God's healing in it. First thing, that healing might include something awkward in your life. Jesus might engage in your healing with something that is awkward. Something that might be a little bit embarrassing to talk about. So I was blind, and then this guy, I couldn't see him, but I heard him. I guess it's Jesus. I don't know where he is because I don't know what he looks like. Never saw him, actually. He just spit in the dirt, made some mud, put it on my eyes, and told me to go wash. So I did. Don't even know what Jesus looks like. Actually receiving healing in your life might include something that is pretty awkward. And that if you knew what was going to happen before it happened, you probably would avoid it. If Jesus was like, all right, dude, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to spit in the dirt. I'm going to rub it on your face. He'd probably be like, nah, yeah, I'm pretty used to being blind. It's cool. I got a pretty good gig here. I ask for money. People give it to me because they feel bad because I'm blind. I've kind of ordered my life around it, and I don't want you spitting, and I don't want your spit on my face. Thank you. Right? There are ways in which I might even say, no, listen, guys, God wants to heal and restore your life. There are things about you. There are things about your experience. There's ways that you live that you know are destructive. You know they're not the way it's supposed to be. And here's what we can do about it. And if I tell you, and if I explain it to you, you'd be like, yeah, nah, cool. I'm pretty used to what I got. It's kind of rough sometimes, but life is rough, so I'm strong enough. I can handle it. And that awkward bit, I don't want that in my life. I don't want to have to explain it to anybody else. So I appreciate your concern. I'll look forward to hanging out again sometime. We're still mates. But I'll pass. First thing, if we want Jesus' work in our life and his healing in our life, it probably will include something awkward, and we need to be ready for that. Thing number two, not only do we need to be ready for that, we probably are going to need to participate it in some meaningful way. Most of us want the holy lightning zap, right? Oh, I keep losing my temper. Can somebody just pray for me and then, oh my gosh, temper's gone. That was easy. Oh man, I keep on doing the same thing. It's my lust, it's my temper, it's my greed, it's my selfishness. It's my lack of self-control. Or whatever. And man, it'd just be a whole heck of a lot easier if just give me a Holy Spirit zap. Oh, done. Can we just download an update and reset me overnight while I sleep? That'd be cool. It just doesn't tend to work like that. It requires some meaningful participation on our part. In this case, the guy needed to make his way blind with spit mud on his eyes. And then there's the people with him, because obviously somebody probably have to guide him to the pool. Oh, this is weird. Wash, and then he gets to see. So if we want to experience something of God's healing and God's restoration in our life, number one, we got to be ready for something awkward. Number two, it's going to require our participation. It just most likely probably is. Every now and again, Jesus does some cool things, like there's a dude with a withered hand, withered from birth, and Jesus says, stretch out. He goes, oh my gosh, and it happened. Right? Lazarus was dead in a tomb. Jesus says, come out, and he just does. Some things, it happens like that. Most of them aren't like that. They require meaningful engagement on our part, and it might be just that little bit awkward. But here's the thing. When we're willing to get stuck in on that, we have the opportunity to change our entire family tree. To bless our families and our posterity. The sins of the father are paid on to the third and fourth generation, but 1,000 generations are blessed of those who fear God and honor him. This guy was born blind, and you know what? We can probably sit back. In fact, we were having this conversation the other day as we were with some friends, and I was, okay, so what did you get from your parents? What traits did you get from your parents? And you can probably have that really interesting conversation. What did you get from your mom? What did you get from your dad? Of those things, the follow-up question, which is interesting, would be, and what do you appreciate and what do you not? I've got these things. I've got a few things I do like my dad sometimes. I catch myself like, oh, no offense, Dad, if you're watching. Love you, bud. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, that was my dad. And you know what? He does the same thing. He's like, oh, there's a few things. He's like, oh, that was my dad. That was Eugene right there, man. Look out. My granddad's name was Eugene, obviously. Right? But there's things in each of our life. And then if you've got kids, or maybe nieces and nephews or whatever, you think about, oh man, what of me is in them? And some of that you might be really proud of. And some of that you might not be. You see it happen, you're like, oh, that was me. Yeah? But this idea that as we experience the healing of God in our lives, not only does that transform our life, but it transforms the lives of those who come after us. That's a big flippin' deal. That's how the world changes. That's how the world changes. Name for me, for just one moment, the system, the structure, the institution that is effectively like changing the world for good. You can tell me you're a capitalist, or you're a communist, or you're a socialist, or you're a Marxist, or you're an environmentalist. Pick your ist that you are. And you can claim to me that that ist, that ism, that system, that worldview is going to fix the world. And you know what? You're wrong, because it hasn't. Like, we're arguably the most educated humans that have ever been. We're arguably the richest humans that have ever been. We're arguably the most organized humans that have ever been. And still, we're like, is it World War III or is it just coming? I don't know. Like, this is our pinnacle. This is as good as we've gotten. Because every system, every institution, every ism, every ist, ultimately is operated by a bunch of human beings who aren't perfect. Right? We will take something as allegedly objective as even science and make it partisan. Have outcomes related to funding. Right? That's just what we do. If we really want to change the world, if we really want things to be better and to improve, then ultimately what we need is some healing from God, because none of us were born right. That healing is probably going to include something that feels pretty awkward from Jesus. It's going to require some of our own participation. But as we do, not only is our life changed, but the lives of those around us and our offspring, our what's the word I'm looking for? Posterity changes. And the world changes. You and I are God's plan A. You've heard me say it time and time again. You and me. That's it. You and me. Knowing and being known by God. Having His Spirit in our lives for change, transformation, and healing. And through our families, whether that's biological or sort of metaphorical, transforming communities. One by one, until the world is transformed. To the glory of Jesus Christ, because none of our education, none of our government, none of our science, none of our economics has actually done it yet. Because it's something only Jesus can do. So will we be prepared to accept the awkward thing He might do in our lives and then meaningfully participate in it for your blessing and the blessing of our world? I left out a critical bit, actually, that I want to revisit. The disciples asked, who sinned, this guy or his parents, that he should be born blind? And Jesus said, actually, neither this man nor his parents. It's not about that direct responsibility. It's just sin is just in the world. Jesus doesn't say that, but he infers it. But he also goes, rather, this has happened so that the power of God might be displayed. And so it might be that your confession is, you've had this fatalistic sort of view of things. It is what it is. Things are what they are. Change is impossible. And actually, perhaps your confession is like, oh man, God, actually, I just kind of accepted it. It is what it is. Whoever's born that way is born that way. And whatever that means, whether that's blind, with psoriasis, with a withered hand, whether, ill-tempered, or whatever it is. And it's like, actually, there's the opportunity for the power of God to be displayed in your life. Because there's a lot of you here in this room who can be like, no, like, I've changed. God has changed me. Some of you experienced physical healing. Others of you are like, I'm just not the same person I was 2 years ago, 5 years ago. And some of you like the excuse of the fatal, the predetermination of your genetics. Because it lets you off of responsibility. And maybe your confession is it's time to take responsibility. Lord, I've not wanted to take responsibility for who I am and how I am. I've wanted to just be let off the hook so I can indulge who I am and how I am. And not have to be accountable for it. That could be your confession. Your confession could be, no, God, I know you're willing to do something about who I am and how I am, but I know it's going to be awkward and I'm going to have to do something and I'm just not quite willing. And so it's like, actually, your confession is a lack of willingness. Your confession could be something entirely different. But there's this good news that the word gospel means. It means good news. And there's this good news that through Jesus, we can be healed. We can be changed. And that might not mean that my psoriasis goes away, but my psoriasis isn't a moral issue. But it might mean that through engaging with the awkwardness of God and participating with it myself, I can be more patient. I can become more kind. I can become more gentle. I can become more self-controlled. I can be more loving. I can be more peaceful within myself and with others. God's for you. He's on your side. He wants what's best for you. He wants these good things for you. And he provides them in Christ. We don't confess to a God who's going to rub our noses in our mistakes, but a God who loves us is going to walk with us. We confess to a God who so loved the world that he gave his